and welcome to another episode of the Unlocking Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Pitts, and today we're going to do things slightly differently. Today's topic is the hidden power of fun in your sessions, and rather than you listen to me by myself, I've been given permission to let you listen in on a training I did with my certified injury hacker coaches a couple of months ago. We explored a range of hidden ways that having fun in your sessions can benefit you, the people you coach, and the results they're trying to achieve. It was a fascinating discussion, and to help you follow along, I've put some extra resources in the show notes. I hope you find it as beneficial as we did. Yeah. So today I would like to get your thoughts on how we fit fun into our warm-ups and cool-downs. Now, it might not be obvious to everybody, so I just want to point out that laughing is the ultimate anti-stress device. So if we can put kind of elements of fun into the warm-up particularly, it brings down the level of emotional stress before we start adding more physical stress of exercise. Does that make sense? So it's a really good place to put it in the warm-up. But also, when people are relaxed and laughing and, all that kind of stuff, they're not thinking about the stress of the day, what they've got to do when they get home. They've forgotten about the person cutting them up on the car on the way to your session, all that kind of stuff that everybody has to deal with. When we're having fun, we are in the moment. And that really, really helps in terms of their engagement with your session. Because once they've stopped thinking about all the stuff that's going on in their life and all the things that they have to worry about when they get home and all the rest of it, they can actually listen to you. So then they get more out of your session because they're paying attention to what you say. And you'll know as well as I do, Margaret, when there's people in a group, especially in a pool, you're going to get somebody chit-chatting at the back, that turns around 2 minutes after you've stopped talking and goes, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
Yes, it's because they are still thinking about what they were doing before they came into your session.
Yeah.
And those people can really easily disrupt everybody else in the session. So if they're coming in with a really negative attitude and they're, even if they're just frustrated about something or they're giggling or they're just doing something that isn't paying attention to you, they're distracting everybody around them, which could mean that the people that they're distracting aren't focused. So they're not really putting the effort in. They're not kind of paying attention to the right bits. And again, it just kind of feeds that cycle of injury because, when somebody doesn't really know what's happening, they don't put the effort in. And if they do, they're constantly worrying that they're not doing it right because they don't know what to do.
I've got one very much like that. The issue is she puts too much effort in then because she hasn't relaxed and switched off.
Yeah.
And it is just, and I'll kind of say just easy. Oh, I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying to keep at the front. I said, well, that's not the big point of this, and she knows that her life is getting in the way of it, but she's the least likely to actually engage in any of the fun bit in the warm-up.
Yes. But
so it's a double-edged sword in some way.
I've had people like that, and they are kind of a bit like me. They don't like making a fool of themselves in public, so they're kind of very withdrawn, very, very bit reserved, and it's only when they've done it a bit and everybody else is doing it and all the rest of it that they kind of go, well, maybe this isn't so bad, and they give it a bit of a try, and then they start to relax.
Yeah, we're getting there, but yes, it's taking a long time with this particular one.
Yeah, because we've spoke before, but it's worth saying again that people consider fun to be lots of different things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I did, wasn't it? About the thing. For something to be fun, it has to be funny, which is not necessarily the case. I mean, learning's fun, challenging yourself is fun.
Exactly.
It's like those three things that you said about getting people moving is fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think one of the issues too is, though, and this one anyway, and some feel if they're having fun, it's not worthwhile.
Yes.
Yes, I can see that, Margaret. Yeah.
But it's not serious enough.
No. But when we put it to them, right, like I just did to you, that fun and laughing and smiling and all that kind of stuff is the ultimate anti-stress thing.
Yeah.
And that reducing their emotional stress is much more likely to result in no injuries. You have a choice. You can either be super stressed and try this training session and, you know, worry about being injured at the end of it, or you can have a bit of a laugh, reduce your stress and reduce your risk of injury by the end of it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
We're still going to do the training session.
When we, years ago, when we did the level 1, we went to that hall.
Oh, yeah.
And there was Susie Richards and everybody else there. And that was absolutely amazing that we all danced round in a circle and everything. That was virtually unheard of then. I mean, it just shows how far we've come, really. But that really got everybody. It did loads of things. It didn't just make it the session fun. It got everybody talking to one another and
exactly
everything. There's so much.
Yes.
Just maybe not planning going to do, but seeing who's there, you know, and picking up on what the vibes are, basically.
Exactly. And this is the thing where your coaching genius really comes in. And I call it genius, you know, without being flippant about it. You know, your coaching skills are genius. You know your people so well, and you know the types of people that you've got in the group, you know, who's going to kind of get involved with it and who isn't, you know, and you can really use the people who are more open to having a giggle to get the people who aren't so open to having a giggle to at least have a little bit of fun.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, we kind of like take the starting micro moves seriously, in inverted commas. You know, we're thinking about what we're doing, and then there's the MIDI ones, and that's fine. And then the maxi ones, I sometimes get them to do Simon Says in pairs.
Cool.
Or we just do silly things like, you know, close your eyes, or, you know, do this, that, and the other. And that then begins to really break the ice if it's not already been kind of, it depends. It depends on the mood of the group, really.
Yeah.
But I find you can build the fun in over that warm up before they get in the water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So warming up is like one place where it's really important. But before I forget, I just need to say that putting it in the cool down actually has a really beneficial effect in terms of weight management and sleeping and, you know, recovery and all those things that we want our people to be improving in that we don't necessarily have any or much control over. You know, if you're a group instructor, then you hope your people will be eating well and you hope that they will be sleeping properly and, you know, you'll have this good routine, but you can't really control any of it. So if you can put something in at the end that's fun, that people really enjoy doing, it makes them stay to the end to do it, but also it really helps with those things. And if they're weight management minded, whether that's gaining weight or whether that's losing weight or whatever it is that they're trying to do with their management, whether they've got a digestive issue, you know, just having a little bit of fun at the end of a session can really help with those issues.
Yeah, I mean, it underlying sort of helps, but it's also, as they sort of climb out, you begin to hear more and more, oh, I enjoyed that one. You
exactly.
know, it's that tells me that actually they have had fun at the end.
Yes,
it was hard work in the middle, but they've had fun at the end. They're coming out with a very positive attitude towards the session. And there's yak in the changing rooms. And so a lot more kind of relaxation going on afterwards. Yeah,
and that really helps because ultimately you're there as a coach to help them with their fitness goals. You know, so if your sessions are making them smile and they're making them feel tired but refreshed and happy rather than battered and sore, then you're giving them an alternative view of what health and fitness can be like. And they're much more likely to come back to your sessions and continue with you if you have elements that they really enjoy, because sometimes it will come down to, let's say somebody's really struggling, they're having a bad day. Maybe they're having a bad few months.
Yeah.
And they're in a bit of a fog, shall we say, with life in general. And they've been kind of coming to your sessions to try and, go through the motions and tick the boxes and all the rest of it. But if your session is something that is a little bit fun, it's a little bit less pressure, to train hard and do all those things that make people in that situation feel worse, they're much more likely to stick with your session. Well, I'll go because it always makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Whether they're training hard or not, socially, emotionally, it just makes me feel better to go. So it can be the difference between somebody dropping off and not achieving their goals and really struggling with mental health and all the rest of it. Or it could be the thing that tips people into staying and actually talking to people around them in the session and, getting a bit of help and having that social bond with people that you get in a group session, or even with you as an individual coach, So I think it's really difficult to underestimate the power of fun in a session. But what I wanted to do today was really just brainstorm some ideas that you might have in terms of, things that you might do. Like I've done before, the head, shoulders, knees and toes warm-up example. So
I've done that as a cool down in the pool.
Yeah, exactly. I always use them instead of head like this. I always kind of go overhead. But then I will say, right, well, you can only touch the left side. So, when you're overhead, you must lean to one way and then touch this side and this side. And then you're rotating and doing all those things that's really good for your spine.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Good idea.
And then touching the back, that's really interesting. Who can touch the back of their shoulders? Well, it doesn't really matter if you can, let's just try. And again, it's giving people permission to do something that isn't supposed to be correct. And sometimes that can just be fun in itself. Taking the shackles off, and just going, okay, well, can you do it like this? Can you do it like that? Well, I don't know, let's see. And I think having the idea of something being self-exploratory, rather than self-explanatory, which is what I was going to say.
No, I think it's a great phrase, that.
Yeah, if it's exploring what you can do as yourself in terms of how you can move, where you can move in space, all those sorts of things can be quite fun, because fun is just being in the moment. It's being relaxed. It's knowing that there's no other pressure on you whatsoever. You just have to try.
Yeah. The thing is, what I've got down is simply including a variety of movements, discovery of body awareness by working things out for themselves, and using coordination of multiple joints at once is fun too. Exactly.
Yeah, and then if you can layer in on top of that social interaction, some people will find that fun. Some people will find that too confronting. So you have to know your people.
Yeah.
You have, a group of kids, for example, you might have, well, it doesn't really matter, a group of people, you might have, some people are really naturally very drawn to other people and very sociable. And there's people like me who are like, well, I'll do it because I have to, but, I'm not really bothered. So, there's always going to be that range of people. And it's up to you where you pitch it in terms of your people and what's helpful for them, just like everything else that we're doing with the 3M flow stuff, But when Chris came to the level 1, which is actually now, anyway, the level 2. But anyway, we had how do you move your neck? Can you move your head? Which way can you move your head? And, my sister is a dance teacher and she teaches kids. So she's like, well, how can I get kids to do this? I'm like, well, you taught me to be a chicken when I was little. You taught me to be an Egyptian. How is that not fun?
Yeah.
And I had the group going like this. It's like, I mean, it's daft. It's just daft, but why not? And there's going to be people in the group going, oh my God, I'm not doing that. Because they're bothered about making a fool of themselves in public, but they don't need to move the head very far. They can kind of just practice bringing the head back to the wall or something like that, but when it's self-exploratory, it's bringing that focus in on yourself, which takes away the pressure. It takes away that fight or flight, the stress of having to do it right, the worry about people watching you while you do it, all those sorts of things. It just depends on how you explain things to people as to, what constitutes fun for them. So if you've got a group of teenage girls, for example, right, the most self-conscious people on the planet, right, you won't want them to be walking around like chickens because they're just going to go, well, this is stupid, I ain't doing that. But you can get them to stand just in front of the wall. Can you bring your head back to the wall? Can you touch your ear to your shoulder? And none of this, please, that's cheating. Just simple things like that. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do the other? And it's always the same question that I keep saying we go back to every single time. Can you move your body like this?
Yeah.
And
that sometimes in itself is fun.
And followed up with, well, are there other ways you can move the same bits, as it were? How can you vary that, in other words?
Yeah, and another that triggers another kind of thing that I was going to say is that when you have reactions, like the human being is a reactive being, right? We don't generate stuff for ourselves. We react to our environment, So if you've got somebody else in the room, like a high five thing is something that I use with groups quite a lot, right? Before COVID anyway. You've got 10 people in the room, you get them walking around the room in different directions because they will all walk around the outside of the room in the same direction if you don't give them any clues. But you get them walking around the room all different directions. Every time they come to somebody, just high five someone. Then you can change it to tens. Then you can change it to high or low or, just to one side or whatever. And then you leave it up to them to figure it out. When you come up to somebody, don't say anything, just react to the person in front of you. So then you've got people going, like this, and they're reacting and they're in the moment, they're doing something that is taking them away from, oh my God, am I doing it right? How stupid do I look? All this kind of stuff. And that just helps that rest and digest nervous system kick in.
Yeah, but that is also bringing in coordination and learning and the challenging themselves as well, which
absolutely, yeah.
You said it's all those things, and it doesn't matter if they get it wrong because everybody's getting it wrong.
Loads of people have got that wrong. They react to this person who stood next to them. They miss the high five, or they do something completely different to each other, and end up just having a quick giggle, and off you go.
Yeah.
That reminds me of some of the stuff sometimes I do with vertical kicking. In a sense, that there might be the three of them just facing each other, and they take it in turns to have a go at kind of a moving differently, whether it's heads or arms or legs or whatever it is, and the others have to react to that and kind of copy it. And most of the time they kind of like drown. They can't really keep their chins above the water. But what it does is it takes their mind off having to kick harder, as well as having that kind of awareness of people around them and having, as you say, having fun.
Yeah.
So that that it has all sorts of things in a sense. It's their own self-awareness of movement, but it's also the awareness of others around them. And for triathlon anyway, that's an absolutely key element.
Absolutely,
they're not kind of in themselves all the time. Yes, they need to be exploratory and know how they move, but they also need to be able to react to what's going on around them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that bit has, you know, that's the fun bit in a sense in the sessions, but it has a run off to when they're in an event, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you tried doing like positioning when they're doing the vertical kicking thing? So they're upright in the water, and they're like, there's a few of them in the end of the lane. Have you asked them to arrange themselves in a straight line, or make a square or a triangle? Yeah. You see, that in itself, it doesn't require much effort, does it? But it's fun.
Yes. Yeah. And they actually find that quite difficult.
Exactly. So it's challenging too, and it's social.
You
know, and it's like, well, how hard is that? Just to throw a little bit of, you know, less serious stuff into the session.
Exactly. And then you've got sort of drafting practice, and they kind of like, you know, try out different places in relation to each other, and experiment with what works for them. And I, you know, most of them find that quite funny, because there's sometimes an aha moment. Oh yeah, actually drafting is quite good. But so that's the serious bit in a sense, but they're trying to keep an eye open and do this, that, and the other at the same time. So yeah.
We used to do open water swim practice in the lanes, where you had to swim like 4 or 3 abreast in the lane and try not to get kicked in the face, and you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, you go, I'm not bothered. You lot are racing, I'm not fussed, I'm just gonna sit at the back.
Well, you'd prefer the other one we do, I suppose, then, is there's 3 or 4 in the lane, and yes, there's some open water starts going on, but the other times is, right, okay, you've got to stay shoulder to shoulder and in time with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the end, you know, at the same time.
Yeah, but you see, I know now, looking back on that swim drill, that the reason that I find that uncomfortable is because I can't stand people in my personal space, you know, for personal reasons. And there's always going to be the element of person that goes, you know, I'm just not going to get involved with this. And they might not have the understanding of themselves or the words to explain why. They just don't like that drill. And they might tolerate it in a race, and that's fine. But to find some, you know, there's always going to be things that you think are fun.
Yeah,
the people it's quite triggering for.
Absolutely. You've got to give them kind of option, or get outs, if you like, that don't kind of feel like failure, but are alternatives to if they're not comfortable with something. Yeah,
exactly. And I didn't mind doing it in pairs or even 3s, because there was just enough space.
Enough room,
But it was when there was somebody behind you and somebody in front of you and the people either side of you as well, I just feel boxed in. I'm like, no, I can't personally do that. So I would manipulate the situation so that I wasn't in that position. And I knew it was only going to be for 3 or 4 goes. And then we'd stop doing it and do something else. And I just like, well, I'll tolerate it for now, but I really hate it. You know.
Did you hang back?
Yes. Yeah,
that's the clue, isn't it? When you're watching people, you know, they don't want to get into the melee, if you like, but they'll kind of like try and, it's almost masking. You know, they try and sort of look as though they're participating, but staying in a place where they have manipulated more comfort for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's a survival thing, isn't it? You know, and like I said, if other people find it fun or think it's fun to do, but you've got people in the session who are deliberately not getting involved, then you have to question how effective that thing is for that person. And if there was another way of helping them to experience what you want, but without putting them in that situation.
I think you have to change the activity for the whole group if you observe something like that happening. Not in a sense of you know, singling someone out.
No.
But maybe, you know, you only do it once, maybe twice, but not 4 or 5 times, so that you kind of move on, and then the next sessions you automatically adjust it so that you are aware that there are 1 or 2 people in that particular group who are not going to benefit from that.
Yeah. Or put them at the front or put them at the back, or, ask the people who are setting off behind them to just wait a second so that there's just that extra bit of space, and see how manipulating that makes the difference to the group and to that individual. Because if the individual is immediately in it and doing it, then you adapted it to help them without having to pull them out and go, excuse me, why aren't you getting involved in this? Or
no, I would never do that.
shouting at them from the poolside, like, or you get in the middle, which has happened to me before.
Yeah. It's easily done. And I probably used to do that, to be fair. When you see somebody not doing what you've asked them to do, you want to kind of like, I was going to use the word encourage, but it's not very encouraging when you're trying to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. I hope I haven't done that for years, but I'm sure I probably did in my
again, this is where your coaching gene comes in, really, because the difference between encouraging because somebody is just freaking out that they can't do it or they think they can't do it, compared to forcing them, or what you think is encouraging but actually is really pushing them to do something they don't want to do. And sometimes we don't know that line as coaches.
No, it's difficult because, there's no way you want to put somebody in a position of harm.
No, but Chris, you're going to get people who react a lot more severely to that.
Just move on.
Yeah.
Don't even go there. If you as a carer, you'll pick up on the signs, that you'll pick up on the frown basically first, and then whoa, let's move on. You're going to achieve nothing. Persevering with it, but no, you're right. You can't persevere with that.
No, and I think it comes from you as a leader as well, as to how people react to what you're asking them to do. Immediately that I started doing this, you both started laughing, because it's fun. It makes me laugh to do it, and you guys are laughing at me, which is fine, but it does come from you. And if you don't feel comfortable doing those things in front of people and demonstrating and doing those things, without even thinking about it, then they're going to pick up on that, especially your guys, Chris. The perception of energy is so huge with people that if you're standing there feeling awkward, going, oh yeah, move your head forwards and backwards and then side to side, they're going to be like, well, you don't feel comfortable doing it, so why should I?
Well, yeah, but there's such a lot of people are picking up on that even before you've started it, because they'll pick up on your apprehension. Oh my God, I'm going to have to do that silly chicken thing again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Do that, and they can read it.
Yeah. Yeah. But if it's just like, let's just, add this and a bit of this and, do a bit of this and, it's just a bit fun. It's just added as a bit of a silly extra, then they're like, well, yeah, all right then. Don't see why not. Because you've kind of gradually led them into it. And I like your idea, Margaret, of doing the micro stuff a little bit more seriously at first and then leading them to the maxi stuff.
Yeah.
But adding that layer of fun on the end. So if their normal or your usual go-to for maxi in terms of coordination, especially in the cool down, is to close their eyes or blink or nod the head or something like that, then you could add a bit of a finger dance, just to see how that works. Or you could, change the light bulbs or, do whatever and just be a bit silly about it, especially if they're super tired, like they've given everything to your session and they're really tired, they can't be bothered to do the cool down. The last thing they want to be doing is, stretching and doing all this stuff. It's just going through the motions. But if you give them something that doesn't require a lot more effort from them, like the finger dance or, a bit of Saturday Night Fever or, whatever it is, they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. well, actually, yeah, that's quite good. And then they go away thinking better of the session than they do, otherwise. The Unlocking Fitness podcast is a Most Motion original, hosted by me, Sarah Pitts. It's based on the Unlocking Fitness book series, which you can get from unlockingfitness.com. At the time of recording, book 1 in the series is available, with books 2 to 5 in the pipeline. You can find more Most Motion at mostmotion.com and on Facebook at Most Motion.